It was 10 at night when silence finally settled over the mansion. The kind of silence that didn't suit her, it pressed, thick, suffocating, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Isang lay on his back in the bedroom, eyes fixed on the ceiling. He'd memorized years ago. The chandelier above him blurred as tears slipped sideways into his hair. He didn't wipe them away. He didn't have the energy to pretend tonight. Vian was out with her friends. He had kissed her forehead earlier, gentle, almost careful, like she was something fragile, instead of the only person keeping him alive. Go, he told her softly. Enjoy, don't worry about me. And she had smiled because she trusted him. That was the cruelest part. Tonight was the anniversary. The day his sister died. The only person he failed to protect. The world called him ruthless, a monster, a mafia king, who ruled with blood and fear. But none of them knew the boy he had once been. Small hands clutching his sister's sleeve, promising he would always keep her safe. He broke that promise, no matter how many enemies he crushed, no matter how much power he held, no matter how many nights Ryan pulled him out of nightmares and whispered him back into the present. He could not save her. What kind of brother survives that? He murmured into the darkness. His chest ached, tight and hollow at the same time. People said guilt faded, that time softened grief, that some things were simply out of your control. But how do you live when the thing you wanted to protect most is gone? How do you forgive yourself for breathing when they could not? Hisang turned his head, staring at the empty space beside him. On the bed, Vian's pillow still smelled like her shampoo, warm, alive. He pressed his palm to his eyes, a broken sound escaping his throat before he could stop it. I am tired, he whispered. I am so tired. From his pocket, his fingers closed around cold metal. The blade was not unfamiliar. Pain was something he understood, something he had mastered. Tonight he didn't want relief. He wanted punishment. He wanted to feel something that matched the storm inside him. He dragged the edge across his palm, shallow but deliberate. Nothing. No relief, no grounding pain, just emptiness. His breath came uneven as tears finally spilled freely. He pressed the blade harder, desperate, clawing its way into his chest. Not to die, not fully, but no, punish himself for surviving, for failing, for being here when she was not. Blood welled red against his skin, and he stared at it like it belonged to someone else. Still nothing. His hand shook as he dropped the blade to the floor. The sound was dull, final. He bowed his head, shoulders caving inward. I am sorry, he whispered to his sister, to Ian, to the boy he used to be. The front door opened quietly. Ian stepped into the dark mansion, heels in hand, unease curling in her stomach. She'd tried calling him all evening, once, twice, 10 times. No answer. The lights were off, too off. Her heart started racing. Hisang, she called softly. No response. She moved quickly now, bare feet, silent against marble as she climbed the stairs. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong. She stopped outside the bedroom door, hand hovering over the handle. Please be asleep. Please just be asleep. She opened the door, and the world shattered. Yisung sat on the edge of the bed, head bowed, shoulders shaking, blood stained his hands. The blade lay abandoned on the floor, like an accusation. Yisung, she breathed. He looked up. The way his eyes met hers, empty, wrecked, streamed, bare of every wall he'd ever built, made her chest ache so hard she thought she might collapse. Don't, he said hoarsely. Stop, don't come closer. Her breath trembled, but she took a step anyway. Leave, he snapped sharper now. Fear disguised as anger. Why leave right now? She didn't. She crossed the room slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. When she crouched in front of him, lowering herself to his level, her hand shook, but her voice didn't. It's okay, she whispered. Hey, look at me. He turned his face away, jaw clenched. I can't, he said. You should not see me like this. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she forced them back. This was not about her fear, this was about him. I am here, she said gently. I am not leaving. Not tonight, not ever. His control broke. He surged forward suddenly, arms wrapping around her with desperate force. The impact knocked the breath from her lungs, but she didn't pull away. She held him back just as tightly, her hands coming up to cradle his head against her shoulder. He shook in her arms, a broken sob tearing out of him, raw, unguarded. Nothing like the man the world feared. I am sorry, he gasped. I tried, I really tried. I know, she whispered, pressing her lips to his hair. I know you did. He felt the warmth of blood soak into her dress and didn't care. All that mattered was the way he clung to her like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to this world. She rocked him slowly, murmuring nonsense words, soft reassurances, like claiming a frightened child. Breathe with me, she whispered. That's it, you are here, I have got you. When his breathing finally slowed, she pulled back just enough to look at him. Stay, she said softly. I'll be right back, don't move. He nodded, eyes dull but obedient. She stood, grabbed the first aid kit from the bathroom with shaking hands, and came back to him because he was still here. And tonight that mattered more than anything. Ryan returned to the bedroom, the first aid kit clenched in her hands like a lifeline. Ethan still sat on the edge of the bed, head bowed, shoulders tense. The red on his palms catch the dim light of the chandelier above, struck against the pale skin of his hands. Sit down, she said softly, setting the kit beside her. I am going to take care of you. You are not doing this alone anymore. He stiffened. I don't want you pity, he muttered, voice low and ragged. This isn't pity, she said firmly, kneeling beside him. This is me loving you. You think you have to bear all this alone, but I am not leaving. Not now, not ever. Lisan didn't move. The faint scarlet lines of his palms and wrist spoke louder than his words. Ryan gently took his hands in hers, her touch soft, almost tentative. Look at me, she whispered. When he didn't, she traced her thumb along one of the shallow cuts. See, you are still here. You are still breathing, and that's more than enough for tonight. His lips pressed together as if biting back a confession he could not say. Then finally he let her clean the wounds. The antiseptic sting made him flinch slightly, but she hummed softly a tune she'd made up on the spot, and it anchored him. There, she said after a few minutes, carefully wrapping gauze around his palms. She tilted his wrist gently, cleaning the faint marks there too. Done, you are safe now. Heesung's chest rose and fell in uneven rhythm. His head leaned against her shoulder again, a whisper of his usual arrogance replaced by raw Vulnerability. I wanted to feel it, he admitted. Voice small. The pain she felt, I thought it would. I don't know. Help me somehow. Ryan held him tighter, resting her chin on his hair. You don't need to punish yourself to honor her. You are alive. You survived. That's all the proof you need that you can carry her memory without drawing in it. He exhaled shakily, trembling as he tried to find balance in the moment. She handed him water, and he drank slowly, still leaning on her. You are going to be okay, she whispered, stroking his hair. I am not going anywhere, not for a second. We are going to get through this together. His lips curved into a faint, broken smile. You make it sound so simple. It's not, Ryan said honestly, brushing a strand of hair from his face. But nothing worth doing ever is simple. That's why I am here. Because I love you. And because I am not letting you face this alone. For a long moment, they stayed like that silently, anchored in each other's presence. Then slowly Ryan stood. Come on, she said, a small grin tugging at her lips despite the night's horrors. We need to change the sheets. You are not sleeping on this one night, tonight. He sunk round softly, but the corners of his eyes lifted. I didn't realize I'd get yelled at for being dramatic. You are lucky you are dramatic and alive, she teased gently, tucking him toward the bed. Help me, strong gym freak. Sheets need to be stripped. Floor needs cleaning. You are good at lifting things, right? He hesitated, then allowed a small laugh to escape. Yes, maybe. Vine smiled at that, the tiny spark of his old self returning even for a moment. Together they worked in a rhythm of quiet conversation and small humor. She told him stories about her day, about friends who did ridiculous things, about cats that had gotten into trouble. He listened more than he spoke, occasionally offering a dry comment or a low chuckle, but mostly he let her feel the silence grounding him. Once the bed was remade and the floor cleaned, she sat him down, instructing him to change into something comfortable. I will be quick, she said, slipping into a fresh dress. You are not allowed to lie down without clean sheets, mister. He sung obliqued, the faintest smirk tugging at his lips. I suppose I deserved that, he muttered. When he returned, freshly changed, Juan already had the blanket ready. They sat side by side, shoulders brushing, and she handed him another glass of water. He said softly, your sister would be the luckiest girl in the world to have a brother like you, someone who bears the weight of this world and still fights. And I am lucky too, because I have you, strong, handsome, stubborn Haesung. You survived. Haesung's eyes glistened, tears threatening again. You always know the right words, he said quietly. Not always, she said, nudging him with her shoulder, a playful smile forming but sometimes enough to keep you from doing something stupid. The corners of his lips twitched into a small smile, a mix of humor and gratitude, the darkness of the night, the weight of the past, and the raw grief. It was still here, but in her presence, it felt bearable, less like a storm he had to weather alone. Ryan leaned against him, their legs tangled beneath the blanket. Come on, she whispered. Cuddle with him. You need it. I need it. We both do. He hesitated just a second, then let himself fall into her warmth, arms wrapping around her, head tucked against her chest. He felt the first fragile threads of calm in hours, maybe days. Ryan pressed a gentle kiss to his temple. It's going to be okay. He, one step at a time. You are still here. I'm still here. And we'll face tomorrow together. He sung inhaled, letting the rise and fall of her chest guide his own breathing. The mansion around them felt less like a cold, empty shell and more like a space where healing could begin. He murmured barely, above a whisper, I don't deserve you. You deserve to heal, she said firmly, and I am not leaving until you do. The night had grown quieter, softer, as if the mansion itself had exhaled. Outside the wind whispered against the windows, but inside, all that existed was them. Wine at Hazen, tangled in blankets, hearts gradually slowing from the chaos of earlier. Hazen had rested against her shoulder, fingers tracing idle patterns on her arms. Wine hummed softly, leaning into him, letting the warmth of his body sink in. You are heavy, she teased gently, though there was no real bite in her words. I'll take that as a compliment, he murmured, voice still rough from crying. She laughed, the sound low and tender. You are ridiculous. He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. Maybe, but I am yours. Ryan smiled, brushing her fingers through his damp hair. And I am yours, always. For a long time, they didn't speak. Words felt unnecessary. Just the steady rhythm of each other's breathing, the occasional shuffle as they adjusted to get more comfortable. You know, Ryan whispered. After a while, your arms are surprisingly cozy. I might just steal them every night. He sung, let out a small, amused groan. I think I could live with that. She nudged closer, giggling softly. Good, you better. Not backing out. He tightened his hold around her, prying his face against her hair. I am not going anywhere. She stroked his back, tracing circles with her fingers, feeling him relax under her touch. You are strong, you know, he said softly. Even when you think you are not, and tonight, even when you felt broken, you let me help. That's strength too. He sung, tilted his head, just enough to brush his lips against hers lightly, only because you were here. A tiny laugh escaped her. You are hopelessly dramatic sometimes. You know that. Maybe, he admitted. Voices are whisper, but I like being dramatic if it gets me cuddles like this. Wine pressed her cheek to his, smiling. Good. Then you can be dramatic forever. And so they stayed, soft laughter, whispered promises, gentle touch. The mansion no longer felt like a place of shadows, but a sanctuary where pain could be shared, where grief could be held and softened by love. Eventually, sleep found them together, tangled under blankets, fingers intertwined, breaths silenced. Even in the darkness of the past, even in the weight of what they had lost, they had each other. And that night, for the first time in a long time, Hisan believed he might survive not just the pain but everything ahead because Ryan was there. A soft kiss on his temple, a whisper in his ear, and the warmth of her presence wrapped him in a way that nothing else could. Good night, she murmured. Good night, Ryan, he replied, voice thick but calm, finally letting the weight lift, if only a little. And in that quiet, the storm passed, not gone, but gentled, softened by love, comfort, and the promise of tomorrow.